Speech and language therapist. I did my undergraduation in Manipal University in Manipal, and my post-graduation in the University of Auckland in New Zealand. I've worked with Dr. Murthy here at Manipal for around 5 years or so, and at GMC at the Pediatric Neuro Rehab Center, after which I worked in Dubai for a couple of years where I specialized working with children with autism. And now I work at the Hannon Center in Toronto, Canada, where we work mainly with young kids, early intervention mainly. So I'm going to talk today a little bit about communication, a little bit about autism, the different intervention types, and then a little about what we do at the Hannon Center. Just going to get this up. Good, can you see it? All right, so what is speech and language development and how does it happen? So let's consider the analogy of a house. So when we begin building a house, you start with the foundation right at the beginning, which you can consider the grass and the road. You got to dig deep into the ground to lay that foundation really solid. So that part of in speech and language development is our social interaction, where we have to, the first skills that a child learns would be to pay attention, to listen to what you're saying, to be able to have a back and forth engagement. So that part is your social interaction, which is the foundation of how children learn language. Then comes the bricks of the house. So the earlier bricks, the lower bricks are your early language skills, and then the bricks that go on top are the later language skills. So a child needs to have their early language skills really well developed before they can develop the higher language skills. Your higher language skills are things like answering why questions or inferences or predicting what could happen in the future. And children won't be able to do that unless they have their lower language skills developed. All right. Then comes speech. Speech is the little chimney here on the top. So basically people can do fine without speech, but we still need our social interaction and language to be well developed in order to be an effective communicator. Without speech, a person can still communicate using sign language, actions, pointing, writing, picture communication. But speech is just something that completes the whole thing. And just like in this picture, it completes the house. Right? So why do we need social interaction? We needed to learn language, and we needed to make language functional. We'll talk a little bit about autism. There's a lot of definitions out there about what autism is, but I really like this one because this is something that's devised by an autistic individual herself, and her name is Rebecca Burgess. A lot of autistic advocates a lot of autistic people are advocating for themselves. So they say that autism is not linear. You can't have someone who's less autistic or more autistic. Autism instead is a spectrum. There's so many different areas. Let's take these two children, for example, Sally and Nathan. They're both diagnosed to be autistic. Sally has really good language, she's got really good executive functioning, but she struggles with motor skills, sensory skills and perception. Nathan, on the other hand, has average language, motor, sensory, and executive functioning, and he's above average in perception. Now, while both of them are diagnosed to be autistic, they display very different skills, and that's how autistic children are. Although they may be diagnosed to be on the autism spectrum, yet each individual is so very different. All right, so the intervention types. These are the four main types of intervention. You have your behavioral intervention. The most common one is ABA therapy, which I think a lot of people have heard about. It mainly focuses on reducing undesired behaviors and increasing desired behaviors through reinforcement. We then have the educational approach. One such example is the TEACH, which mainly focuses on the fact that autistic children do really well with consistency and using visuals. This is an example of the visuals that I brought up here. Autistic children do really well with visual schedules. These are some examples like this one. I really like this one and use this a lot with my children, where I set the whole plan of the day on one side. As the child completes it, they take it off the little Velcro and they stick it on the completed side. So it gives them a sense of novelty that they get to be a part of their daily schedule. We then have developmental, which is our traditional speech and language therapy and occupational therapy. I think that occupational therapy is extremely important in intervention for autistic children, because a lot of autistic children have sensory integration difficulties, and I can see a couple of familiar faces here who I think will agree with me with that. And then we have social relational intervention, which basically focuses on building up those social skills. We at the Hannon Center do focus mainly on social relational. So the Hannon has a couple of workshops for parents as well as for teachers. So the most common one for parents is the It Takes Two to Talk, which is for young children who have a delayed receptive and expressive language. For children with autism, More Than Words is the most popular one, which is again for young children who may be nonverbal and have a delayed receptive expressive language. And then they also have a workshop for literacy. If you are interested in knowing more about this, you can contact Soumya. She is the coordinator for all Hannon workshops in India. Programs for educators, we have for language, which is learning language and loving it, which again gives the teachers strategies on how they can work with children with a communication or language delay in the classroom, and a literacy workshop too. These are just a few strategies that we do with all our families. So we focus mainly on early intervention. We focus mainly on training the parent, because the parent is the one who is with their child pretty much the whole day, right? And when they come in for therapy, it's just half hour for 1 week or 1 hour at the most once a week. But parents are the ones that work with their child the whole day. So we focus mainly on working with the parent instead. The first and one of the main strategies is being face-to-face. So when you're working with your child, or when you're playing with your child, it's important to get down to your child's level. If your child is sitting on the ground, you sit on the ground as well. If they're sitting up on the chair, and if they're little, you can sit on the ground so that you're face-to-face with your child. Being face-to-face promotes eye contact. It gets them to interact with you and engage with you a little bit better. The next one is imitation. So you imitate what your child is doing. If your child has a little car and they're rolling their car back and forth, you take your own car and you roll a car back and forth. Once the child realizes that you're imitating them, you will have their attention, and then you can keep that interaction going which, like the house, if you remember, the social interaction, it's the foundation of learning language. Then you wait. This is again an important strategy to do, is to wait. A lot of times parents feel like they need to be talking all the time, and they think that, okay, my child is going to learn if I talk a lot. But waiting is equally important. Wait after you ask a question. Wait after you give them an instruction. Or if you're playing with their car, wait to see how they respond to you. And then using simple language. So when you're talking to your child, be sure to use language that is at their level. If your child is little, if they're 2 and not yet talking, try using only single words to talk to them, to comment on what they're doing, to label what they're doing, so that it's easier for them to understand. If you use long sentences, it's probably just going to go over their head and they won't know what you're talking about. Repeat what you do. So that's another really important one. Repetition. Children learn mainly through repetition and through imitation. The more times you repeat a particular word in that situation or in different situations, the better their chances of learning it. And avoid screen time. This is one particular one. There's a ton of research that's done to show that the more screen time that a child has, the higher the link to a language delay, especially with autistic children, right? So from 0 to 2 years, the recommendation is no screen time at all, and above that, it's a maximum of ½ hour to 1 hour a day. And yeah, that's about it.
The effort of Dr. Murthy and the Dr. Smith. Very happy, very touched, that's why I'm here. And he said all about my kids and our kids. I don't train them or not heal them. It's a very dry subject actually. But I try to put some colors by what I have learned from Maharaji. It changed completely my whole entire life as I started with the children. I had been traveling through initially 19 years old I was when I went to Europe trip with Maharaji. We had exchange through Russia and all other countries. 2 months that trip was there to perform my form, classical Indian Kathak. And then I made a point that I want to see these kids who are different than us, little bit, not much. But as I started observing them, then I'm today convinced that we are special. I believe that. We are special in some places. We have got so many, our personality is lack of so many things, but not them. We are so smart. God has given us a power to overcome our weaknesses or hide our weaknesses. We come with a different faces to people. But these kids doesn't have another face. They come how they are. And that is very beautiful. Welcome Pramod. I'm very happy to see you here. तो मेरा कहने का मतलब ये है कि when I used to go out, whether it's Canada, Canada is second house to me. Next time when I'll come, I'll visit you. Definitely. I liked whatever you said. The last you saw small kids, they were children with autism. So it took long time, me, to get them to hear. Because they like music and dance. Autism people, they like music and dance. And very difficult to get them in this place. Second, the first one was with visual. They are blind people. I know they are not perfect. But then come face so many peoples is a tremendous. Then the last witch with the cherry, with the fire, they had gone, I have taken them. We have got an invitation from Dublin and Mauritius. Because Mauritius, I was stayed and I had settled a Bal Bhavan there. On the base of, we have got India, Delhi. The Bal Bhavan in Delhi, on that pattern we have settled, I have gone to settle there. So I was there working for 8 months or 9 months. So there they have performed this dance. And these are with the hearing impaired. They can't hear, they can't listen to you, but they perform in Dublin also and Mauritius also. These girls, and the last, those with the 2-3 performances we had. So they have got now so much confidence that they can face anything, any challenges in this world. I mean to say all about this, कि अगर हम चाहें तो ये बताते हैं कि कुछ भी possible, impossible नहीं है. But my dance, yes, I have so many years when I submit my first paper, then my second PhD paper, and for the dance lately, it is confirmed that music and dance is a therapy used now worldwide. It gives these children immediate confidence. Because अगर हम exercise के लिए बोलते हैं तो हम भी नहीं करते हैं. We feel a little boring. Oh my goodness, योगा करना है. अच्छा ठीक है यार, 10 minutes के बाद, 10 minute के बाद करेंगे. लेकिन as you put music, you are totally changed. So the same thing with the children. First I used to start with the technically. Then I said it is not working so fast. But as I started putting music, then these people started responding immediately. So language. When we say about language, we have to go down to their language, local language. अगर आप उनके साथ किसी और language में बात करेंगे, they will not understand, they will not respond immediately unless you don't know their language. First, because their mother tongue. Second, that how you touch them. Touch is a therapy. Mother Teresa had said, if it goes how you touch. Your touch shows everything. If your touch has that healing power, or they know confidence about your touch, they will respond. And the wonders creates. Now you have seen, I don't have to say so much, but yes, next time when we work with the children, go as you are and be what you are. They are more intelligent, they are very sensible. The chemistry they share with each other is a very, I can't compare. So that's it. You have seen, I have not to say anything much. Thank you very much for inviting. Next time please come when we are having.
Manipal is very familiar to us as a channel. We do a program together. Dr. Salkar is visible on the screen sometimes more than me. So it's nice to be here, and it's nice to be here for such a wonderful initiative. And Dr. Murthy, it's really an honor for me to be here for such a very, very intense, very, very necessary initiative. I like to make only 1 or 2 points, not more than that. I was talking to Dr. Murthy that day, and I was telling him, we are talking about special children, but for me, when we interact with parents or teachers on a day-to-day basis, what we find usually, including with the education department, schools, colleges, anywhere, I started calling it a teacher and parents problem. That suddenly we have gone into a phase that children should understand us and we need not understand the children. And we have gone into a zone of telling them, you listen to us and you behave the way we want you to behave, rather than understanding how the child wants to behave and then shape the child accordingly. And this is happening across. It is happening with the teachers also, it is happening with the parents also. And for me that's a huge problem. And as a society we need to come to terms and we need to understand how we need to behave with our next generation. And I'll give you one example. A friend of mine, and I'll come to the details of it later. A friend of mine has a 3 or 4-year-old son. Admitted him in a very reputed school in Panji. And the boy is a bit hyper. There can be various reasons. He's hyper. And he was not, obviously he was not ready to sit in the class for the initial 10-15 days. And that's the usual case with every child. But usually now the teachers have come to a conclusion that in 3-4 days children settle down, or maximum it takes 7 days to settle in the class, and then they don't require parents around them. So this child took more than 7 days to settle down, and suddenly the parents got called from the teachers saying that it looks like your child is a bit hyper, you need to evaluate the child. and come back to us to see whether the child requires this school or a separate school. So before going to experts, now most of the schools have counselors. So my friend went to the counselor, and one of his friends is also a counselor in a school. So the counselor, when the counselor evaluated the child, he found that there is nothing wrong with the child. And he said that this is a post-COVID scenario with most of the children. Because we are not understanding it, and sometimes when I try to put myself in the shoes of my children, it is scary. Because we did not study like them. For the first probably 3-4 years, we told them you cannot touch the screen for more than half an hour or 1 hour a day. And then we gave them the screen and told them you have to study on this, you have to do your homework on this, you have to read your notes on this, you have to see your lectures on this. And from 1 hour a day probably, suddenly we expose them to screens for 6 to 7 hours a day. Now we may very well argue that we did not have an option. But imagine from the child's perspective, again I am saying our immediate response is we did not have an option. We were in a pandemic situation. We shifted, the world shifted and we adjusted. But we also expected the child to adjust like us. Now imagine a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old getting adjusted to that kind of shift. I don't think any one of us took time out of our schedule and tried to make that child understand what we are going through and what the child should be prepared to go through. We told them one day, from tomorrow your classes are online and this is the tablet I have bought for you, a new tablet, the child is happy, we are happy with a new tablet and a new smartphone, and everything started happening the way we felt that the child will adjust. What has happened now? I don't know, because I'm amongst doctor, I don't dare to use the word post-COVID. Where post-COVID for me is a very technical word. So I don't even want to use that word, whether we are in post-COVID or we are still in COVID. I think it is better the doctors use that word. But now I think slowly we are realizing the impact and what it did to the psychology of the children. But still again, as teachers or as parents, we have not come to terms with it. We are still saying that a child comes to a school today, a child that has never been exposed to a social environment for past 2-3 years, that he should get adjusted in 7 days. And if it doesn't get adjusted in 7 days, the child needs evaluation. So we need to change our parameters of understanding the children, and we need to understand what we have put our children through. If we went through so much of trauma practically, imagine what must have happened to those children. We have never given it a thought. I request you, because I have many high hopes from Manipal. We are starting such a nice initiative. I feel there needs to be a very comprehensive study with a very good sample size across the state of what impact those 2 years and that screen time has created on the mind, psychology, emotionally or physically on our children. Nobody has done that, nobody has thought of doing it. Suddenly when the schools reopened, we all were happy as parents कि बच्चे कल से घर में नहीं होंगे. That was the best thing for most of us कि okay, now you pack your bags and go to school. So for 5 hours to 6 hours we are in school from tomorrow. That was the initial reaction of most of the parents. So when they spoke to us, that was the initial. Children were also happy that they don't have to be in school and among these 4 walls. So they were also happy packing their bags and going to the school. But what happened in the interim, none of us evaluated. And I think that evaluation is absolutely important, because we are still in the short term, we don't know the impacts in long term. I think if an institute like Manipal can take up such an initiative and conduct that study with that kind of a sample size across Goa, cities as well as villages, I think the findings will shock us, but I think we all need to come to terms with reality, see those findings, accept those findings and work on those findings. I think that is very, very important. So it's all from my side. Thanks a lot, and Doctor, it's been an absolute honor to be here.